Hey, it's MGE and welcome to Schedule 1, the game that has taken the entire industry by surprise. I've been putting an ungodly amount of time into this game. I've played over 100 hours, 100%ed, except for getting pinched and picking up garbage. Do I look like I pick up garbage? And I have learned a few things along the way. That was actually a pretty good intro if I was doing a tips and tricks video, but that's not what we're doing today, okay? Today, I will show you my endgame production line and explain why I think it's the best one to use. This is an 8-mix cocoa production line, and we're of course using the highest price mix found at the time of this recording. Essentially, it boils down to something very simple. Grow, cook, mix, package, store, and of course, distribute. And that's what I love about this design. It's very intuitive, doesn't require a bunch of different materials at different areas, and it's extremely easy to build and upkeep. First thing we'll do is demonstrate how the entire production line works from start to finish, and then we'll go over each area and how they operate. So here is location 1, the barn. This is where we will grow our cocoa leaves. A very simple but efficient layout. This build is symmetric from this center line both on the left and right. There are 10 botanists working here, 5 on each side. Each one has 6 planters and 2 drying racks. Each botanist has a supply crate here and the same for the other side. Every supply crate has the same ratio inside it. I find this to work best, requiring the least amount of player effort. Production is planter box onto one of the 2 dryers, then into this safe, which will be the golden cocoa leaves. Cool thing here is the ratio of 2-3-3 soil fertilizer seed is reflected in bulk storage on each side. This makes resupply here very easy and very fast. Furthermore, when grabbing the golden cocoa leaves, you can walk across the top of these for a very efficient gather. The next part of the production line is you. Once there is enough leaves, you collect them and bring them to the Veeper. This allows for the most efficient amount of material to be moved to the next location, which will be the docks. The docks is where we will cook the leaves into the base product. We'll grab the leaves out of the van and distribute them evenly amongst these shelves. There will be more detail later on, but for now, you can see there are 8 in the middle and 1 on each side. And if we go in the back here, there are 4 more. This totals 14 cauldrons and 14 ovens, which cooks an absurd amount of leaves. For each of the units, the shelf closest to it supplies both the cocoa leaves and the gasoline. The cauldron then cooks and goes into the closest oven for the finished base. Next, the finished base is split from all 14 of the cauldrons in half and on their respective sides, with 7 cauldrons worth landing here and 7 landing here. This is where the player becomes the next link in the chain and grabs the finished base, loads it into the Veeper, drives to the next location, the bungalow. The bungalow is where we do our 8-stage mix and requires the most time to upkeep. You will literally spend most of your time here. One cool thing I was able to do here with the new safes was fit 2 entire 8-stage mixing setups. Unfortunately for us though, there's not enough staff to run both, so we'll just use the one back here for now. Since we have what is essentially extra routing options from our extra handler, I was at least able to chain these safes into the main input line together, which gives us this buffer at the start of the production here. This is actually a really nice quality of life because in turn it frees up more of your time because this thing will eat resources. This is just standard 8-mix setup with supplies behind the mixer that uses it. These safes allow for a cleaner look and less places for NPCs to get stuck. The product will sequentially upgrade through the chain of mixers, with the final product landing on this shelf. In our game, the product was named Thick Bud, which is pretty cool. But we are not done there. Once again, we transport to the next location, the sweatshop. This location only allows 1 employee, so I chose a handler here. Since a handler has 5 to and from tasks that can be designated, I chose to daisy chain 5 shelves as the input, allowing me to drop off into any of them. She will essentially move them from shelf to shelf and eventually onto the brick press. The output for the brick presser is this shelf here. This is our finished product in its final form. This is when you, as the player, distribute to all of your people. There is one more location though, right here. This place is kind of useless, no employees allowed, but can work quite well as extra storage once your operation is fully running. If you set up the shelves the same way I have here, you will be able to store 2,800 bricks of your product, which is more than you'll ever need, but you will get a lot of extra product using this production line. So that's the tour. Now we'll go back to the barn and I'll show you how to build it piece by piece. Shopping list for the barn is right here. The barn gets built like this. First, if you've never seen it before, we will do the 9-bed placement up top. If you place the first 4 beds in this orientation, the next 3 can fit between the beams. The final 2 beds go on the edge here with the 1 wide gap in the middle. I also like to add in these 2 shelves for when I overstock supplies. If we come down the stairs, the 10th bed goes up against the right wall on the back here. I like to have a bed here for myself, and it also maintains symmetry by putting it here. Next we will add shelves to the 2 sides adjacent to the front doors. I still think it's the best way to add bulk storage because shelves fit between the beams perfectly. Now we can do the same thing on the other side. Next we will grab the racks, and we'll need 60 of them total. To line these up correctly, come to the middle section of the barn on the left here and count 2 spaces back from the shelves we just placed. It's also important not to be in front of the beam. What we're looking for here is to have 3 racks in both of the middlemost sections. Using the same spacing, we'll add in an additional 2 per side. Now that we have a guide for all of the rows, we want to add 2 more racks expanding towards the middle with 1 space in between each. Once you have this placed, you can fill in the rest of the racks by simply maintaining 1 space in all directions. Once you have that finished, you just have to repeat it on the opposite side behind me. Once the barn looks like this, we can grab 60 full spectrum grow lights and place 1 on each of the racks. The order that you place them in doesn't really matter. With the lights placed, we'll want to grab 60 of the air pots, and if you haven't guessed it by now, yep, we're going to place 1 under each of the grow lights. The build is almost done. All we need now is dry racks and the input and output safes. The dry racks are super easy to line up, they just need to be in the middle and right up against the racks on each side. This will total 20. For the output, we grab 10 safes and starting at the back, put them in between each pair of the dry racks while walking backwards towards the front of the barn, like this. Next, we need to supply each botanist with the proper growing items, so we'll give them each a safe along this front wall like so. There will be 5 on each side, and there will be 1 in front of the door here, but it doesn't block anything. The other 5 go on here to supply the other 5 botanists. The build is pretty much finished. Only thing left to do is give each botanist its job. Luckily, that is very easy. For our 10 employees, we will be using 10 botanists, and that's because the barn is for growing cocoa and nothing else. The first thing is to give our botanists a bed, which we could do up here. For the supplies, I like to start in the middlemost safe and work my way right as we move down the line of every 2 sets of planters. Each botanist will have this exact setup, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pots and 1, 2 racks. Now we can set up each group of 3 pots with the proper seed, which is cocoa, and the proper additives, which is only fertilizer. Next we will connect every 3 pots that are next to a drying rack to the drying rack that they're next to, like this. This gets repeated for every 3 grow pots for the entire barn. Once you have completed that, we can come to each grow rack, set the quality to gold, and connect it to the safe that it's next to in the middle here. Then you can repeat that for every dry rack as well. And that is the barn finished. Next is the docks, which is much faster to build. We'll do the beds first, which will go up here. We'll put the first 3 in these orientations and mirror it on the other side. The final 4 beds can go in the middle here, and this is the most symmetric way I could find. Now we can come to the entrance and line ourselves up with the middle here with the lab oven. We want it to face this way and space it 3 tiles away from the back stairs like so. Rotate the second oven and place it back to back. Next we will place 1, 2 cauldrons facing this way, and a large shelf on each end. To properly space the next modules, we will use shelves with 2 units between them like this, repeated 3 times. Same thing on the other side over here. Now we can add in another 2 ovens, again back to back, for every pair of shelves in this column, front to back. The next 2 cauldrons will face the first 2. Now instead of them all facing the same way, we can kind of add in this common space for every 4 cauldrons to keep the traffic to a minimum, and we'll do the same thing for the next 4 as well. Now the setup should look like this. Next we could start adding in a bunch of shelves. We'll start with the 2 output shelves, one of which goes here and the other of which goes to the other side. Onto each of the stairs we can also add in 4 large shelves, which will be bulk gasoline storage, so we can stock up and not have to worry about monitoring it too often. Using this 2 wide gap on the end here, with the lab oven facing this direction, we can place it up against the wall like this. Next we also want a shelf here and a cauldron facing this way. We can then repeat this over on the other side. This will bring the total amount of cauldrons we have right now to 10. This back room will also have 4 cauldrons, and the build order looks like this. This setup is similar to the first ones we added, but the shelving is in a different spot to fit this space correctly. We want to repeat this build order mirrored on the other side, so we want to make sure the cauldrons are in the same line here. Now it should look like this, and as far as placing stuff, the docks are done. The only thing we have to do now is assign our workers their jobs. In this setup, we will be using 7 chemists and 3 handlers as our 10 employees. First thing I'll do is assign them all beds. I'll skip through this so you don't have to see me do each one. For our first chemist, we will assign them the following workstations. We'll start with the middle units, and we will assign them the 4 that are closest to each other. This will minimize the travel time for each of them. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, like that. And yes, I know you can hold shift. Now I'm not going to show it, but for the 3 remaining modules in the middle, you will have to assign 3 more chemists in the same way I just did this first one. The next chemist has a unique 4 workstations, which will include this side cauldron and lab oven, and the same 2 on the other side. The final 2 chemists will split the last 8 workstations that we have in the back room. 1 chemist for these 4, and 1 for these final 4. For our handlers, we will not be assigning them workstations, but we will be using all 5 to and from routes that they have. We'll start on the left side here, and we want to always go from the closest shelf and to the closest cauldron. This allows the handler to bring the cocoa leaves and the gasoline into the cauldron for processing. That being said, we can do the same route for each of the remaining 3 shelves on the left side middle here. This will leave us with 1 more route we can add, and we might as well grab the one on the side here since it's close enough. Now we just need to grab another handler and route them the exact same way we just did this one, just on the right side of the facility this time. Our third and final handler will be responsible for all of the units in the back. As far as employees go, that is all we have to do. A very simple setup once you get a hang of it. The only thing left to do is route where our processing units output to. This is possibly the easiest part of the entire build. What will happen is the handlers will load gasoline and leaves into the cauldron to cook, so we want each cauldron to be outputted into its own oven, which should be the closest one to it. This gets repeated literally for each cauldron. So while we play this footage in the background, I'd like to personally thank you for watching this much of the video so far. It means a lot to me, it truly does. Thank you. Once all of the cauldrons have their lab oven as their output, it's time to get the final product from here onto the 2 output shelves at the front of the facility. The best way to do this is essentially to split the factory in half and connect the ovens on their respective sides. This would be 7 on each side. Only problem is that the middle section here is directly in the middle, so the only fair way to do it would be like this. We'll take the first one and connect its output to the left side, and then we'll take the second one and connect that to the right side, and then we can repeat this pattern for the remaining 6 ovens in the middle. The remaining ovens should be obvious to which side they get connected to. Forgive me, I keep clicking on the cauldrons for some reason, but we want to connect the ovens to the final output shelves here. The modules we have back here can also be routed to the same side that they're on. The final routing will result in 7 lab ovens being connected to each side. This number is important because it ensures this shelf will take the most amount of time to fill up, which leaves you, the player, more time to get other stuff done. For the bungalow, the first thing we'll do is place the 5 beds in here like this. We'll start with 3 shelves up against this wall, and then if we count 6 units like this, we could place these 4 shelves in these 4 spots. You can get an extra shelf here if you want. We will also want an input and an output for this back room. In this room, we'll place 3 shelves on each of the side walls, and the shelves are done. For our first 8 mix setup, we'll want to come to the front room and place down these 7 mixers. The final mixer can go in the front here and will be supplied from this safe. If you don't want to use this room to 8 mix, you can skip all of the stuff I just placed in there and come to the back room. The back room here will be our second 8 mix setup, and this is where I personally do my mixing in my main save. We'll start with 3 mixers on each side up against the shelves. Using the square in the back wall, we can place the 2 final mixers like this. These 2 mixers will be supplied by these 2 safes. The final 2 safes go right here and will be used as our input. The employees here will be 2 chemists and 3 handlers. You could technically can one of the handlers, but I think it's best to have 3 at the moment. First, we assign them each a bed, which I will skip in the video. The first jobs we will assign will be the chemists. The first chemist, we will click on assign workstations. Essentially, in here, we will give him every other mixing table. It's better to do this than to have them work on stations that are right next to each other. Each chemist can have up to 4 workstations, which is perfect while doing an 8 mix setup, because we can have the whole assembly with 2 chemists only. This second chemist will be assigned to the rest of the mixing tables back here, which should amount to 4. For the handlers, we once again will not be assigning them workstations, but we will be using the from and to routes. For our first route, we will assign the handler to grab from this shelf and put it into this mixer. Then we can repeat this for the next 3 mixers. This will leave one route open for them, but I think it's better to leave one open than to have them do an additional task, since we are kind of oversaturated with employees anyway. The second handle will have the same routing, but will start at mixer 5 in the chain. Now our mixers will be loaded up by the shelves that are behind them. We have one more handler, and their job will essentially be moving stuff around when input and output of the product is concerned. We will also have a small buffer at the beginning of our chain here at the inputs. The first route will be from this safe and to this next one. Then from this safe into the shelf. Then this shelf gets connected to the first mixing table. This handler will also grab the finished product from here and bring it to its final shelf. This shelf is where the player grabs the finished product and once again becomes part of the chain to bring it to the next location for packaging. The setup at the shop is so simple. First, we're going to place 5 shelves against this wall. The brick presser goes here with the shelf next to it. Now I like to place a packaging station for myself here, and the bed can go over here. These 2 shelves are to stock up on baggies for our own packaging needs. We will use a handler at this location. First we'll give them a bed. We'll use all of the to and from routes they have. Essentially, we will be just chaining together all of these as inputs, with the final part of the route ending on the input of the brick press. We'll set the handler's workstation to the brick press, and then set the brick press's output destination to the shelf on the right. And that is the shop done. Our final location is here, and this is just for storage. You can get a total of 17 large shelves in here, 1 small shelf, and a lamp if you follow this exact setup. This is enough storage to hold 2,800 bricks and is more than enough for the entire game and many hours played. Remember to turn the lamp on though. Now real quick, I'm going to show you how exactly I have my stock set up for each location. So in the barn, for each of the supplies for each botanist, I have 2 soil, 3 fertilizer, and 3 cocoa seeds. This is the best ratio. This is also the same in all of the supply crates. Next on each wall, we have the same ratio, just in shelves now instead of slots. So we have 3 cocoa seed shelves, 3 fertilizer shelves, and 2 soil shelves. Up top here, I also have some shelves just for personal storage and extra stuff that builds up, broken stacks of items, stuff like that. The docks, super easy to stock up. Essentially, you put the cocoa leaves and stacks of gasoline into all the shelves near the cauldrons, and it runs for a long time. Each cycle of the cauldron cooking only uses 1 gasoline, so I like to put either 1 or 2 stacks of gasoline on the shelves for the handlers to load in. In the long run, it doesn't really matter. There's also some bulk storage for gasoline, so when you get deliveries, you can order a lot and just put it there, and then when you actually have to restock, it's much simpler, much quicker. And that's pretty much it for here. It literally is only gasoline. Well, the bungalow. This is where all the magic happens. You will literally spend all your time here restocking your 8 mix. Remember, this is an 8 mix setup. It is possible to get a 12 mix, I think, in here, and I might do that in the future. I'm not sure yet. You could use any 8 mix you want in this setup. If you're interested in mine, these are the ingredients in order. And that is pretty much it for the bungalow. The smallest property, but like I said, it will require the most time. You will constantly have to restock the 8 mix supplies here. The final location is the shop, and the only thing I keep here is baggies for my own packaging station so that I can deliver what the customers need every day. And that is pretty much the entire setup. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. See ya!